First and foremost, your model should be optimized for use in game, otherwise there is no real point. In modern game engines, polygon counts aren't as big of a deal as they used to be, but even if you have a generous amount to work with, you should still try to keep your mesh optimized where possible. Fewer polygons tend to be easier to deal with, and when it comes to other parts of the character pipeline, such as UV unwrapping and rigging, it just makes things easier for everyone. The most obvious guideline for optimization is to use geometry to prioritize the definition of the silhouette. In this example here, you can see that if you look at the geometry, that the outside edges have more polygons than this internal half sphere. And that's just because, on a shape like this, you're not going to notice the curvature of this inside sphere as much as this outside one. And that's just, if you rotate around the model, you can see that it's having this fewer polygons doesn't really make that much of a difference, because it's the outside edge that really gets most people's attention. And this kind of thinking works especially well on static objects, but it does get a little bit more complicated when dealing with animated characters, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. If you do have the polygon budget to spare, make sure that you're using it in places that count. And for that, let's take a look at this example down here. If you were just to take a look at these two for a second. Oops, sorry, these two. You can see that from a distance they look pretty similar. But on the one on the right, you see I've added a few more divisions here. This top one actually does absolutely nothing, and this one is just trying to indicate a little bit of curvature. And this is just an example of not using polygons very smartly. I know this is kind of obvious, but this is just for the sake of example. But if you're going to put polygons in there, then you might as well make it a lot more obvious. These two have the same number of polygons, but I'm really trying to push this to define a shape, and even in here, just making sure that there's more of an obvious difference in shape from far away, because at a game viewing distance, you want your polygons to actually make a difference. And if you don't really notice it from this distance, or wherever whatever the distance is that you would normally see it in the game, then you might as well have gone for something like this. So just something to keep in mind.